It was 10 summers ago today that India did the unthinkable, win the World Cup on home soil, becoming the first side to do so. And today in this cricket.com special, we of course talk to the man who starred in that final, the man who spent 187 minutes at the crease, paving the path for one of India's most famous wins. We're joined today by Gautam Gambhir. And Gautam, for starters, there's a lot to get through to you, there's a lot to trace back with you. Hope you're fine with that.
I don't remember too many things, I don't honestly, but I'll try and scratch my head and see where I can reach.
Alright, so before we get into that final itself, Gautam, let's take the clock back 10 months before that 2011 World Cup final. There were rumours that the planning and the plotting and all the processes and the meticulous hard work behind the scenes started then. Is this true?
I don't think so. It started 12 to 14 months before. It just happened probably 5-6 months before the World Cup, where we wanted to have a settled squad, a squad which had already faced around, which has already played with each other around 6-7 or a year, so that we can have a settled unit, and that was very, very important. And that's the reason why I believe that all the teams that has gone on to win the World Cups, whether it is Australia, India, all the other teams, they've always been a very settled squad. They've not made too many changes. They've played together for literally a long time. So that's the reason, probably that was one reason why I thought that yes, planning did happen, but it didn't happen 12 to 14 months. It must have happened around 6 to 7 months, where we played continuously together. And then yes, there was different batting orders because Sachin didn't play continuously. Then I missed the one-day series just before the World Cup, got injured. But then we knew what the core is going to be.
Right, now the road to the final was indeed tough. Australia's in the quarters, semi-finals Pakistan, and of course Sri Lanka in the final. But you've always believed that Australia in the quarter-final was the one to win. Can you tell us more about all these atmospheres, in particular that Australia game, please?
For me, I think final before the final was Australia. And I now always believed if you have to go on to win the World Cup, you have to beat Australia. Because yes, there are many other strong sides. There is England, there is other teams as well. But Australia is probably one country, one team who knows how to win big tournaments. That's the reason why they won how many? 4 World Cups? 5 World Cups, and they won the maximum World Cups. And the reason is because they know how to play those big moments really well. And when we went on to win the 2007 World Cup, we had to beat them in the semi-final. Then we did that. We went on to win the T20 World Cup. When we won the 2011, we had to beat them in quarterfinals. So it's Australia, which is probably the toughest team in any ICC or any big tournaments. And that's the reason why when we won against Australia, I remember the next morning we were having breakfast and I told Gary that I think everything from here is going to be easy. And he said, what are you talking about? I think whether we play Pakistan, New Zealand, whoever, I think it's got to be easy. I don't know about other people, but it's going to be easy for me because if we've beaten such a strong side like Australia, things will become much more easier when we face any other opposition.
Alright, food for thought that. Let's move on to, of course, the morning of that final. When you woke up that day, what were you feeling? I mean, was there butterflies in the stomach, or were you simply raring to go, Gautam?
Exactly the same butterflies that I had playing against any opposition, playing against any match when I was playing for my country. Probably I was the most nervous throughout that World Cup was in the first game against Bangladesh. Because when I was growing up, for me, I think 50 over World Cup was the actual World Cup, not the T20 World Cup. Yes, it always felt really nice that when I was part of the World Cup winning T20 team. But for me, this was my dream that was about to come true. So I was probably more nervous than anyone else I remember. And I had to bat at number 3, and then how nervous I was. And I can't even imagine, I've never been that nervous ever in my life. How I was playing against Bangladesh. If I tell this to anyone, that I was probably the most nervous facing Bangladesh in the first game of the World Cup as compared to playing the finals against Sri Lanka or against Australia quarterfinals or Pakistan. They would laugh at me, but that's the truth. Because when you know that your dream is about to come, you want to make an impact, because a lot of things can change between one and the other World Cup. And I knew that if I don't make an impact, I don't know what's going to happen, whether I will ever be part of any other World Cup winning World Cup team, or whether I'll be able to ever achieve my dream of winning the World Cup. So yes, didn't start off really well. I thought I just got 30 odd, didn't start off really well, was very disappointed. I should have converted that 30 odd into a big one. But then yes, over a period of time, things went on reasonably well.
Now Sri Lanka, of course, had momentum in the final part of their innings, which pushed their total to 274. As a team chasing, Gautam, did you guys have any scoreboard pressure going into that pursuit?
I don't think so. We were thinking, honestly, any scoreboard pressure, but then again, 275 was a decent total. Had we batted first, we would have actually thought of getting to 270, 280, because in 2011, 270, 280 was a very good total, not as compared to what you see now, because the rules have changed, 2 new balls, 5 fielders inside, which was completely different to what it was in 2011. Yes, 275 was a decent total. We had to really bat well to actually achieve that total. And again, I don't believe in all the scoreboard pressure. See, again, it's a very, very media created kind of a thing that there's a scoreboard pressure. Again, ultimately, for some people, it gets easier when they have a target in front of them so that they know where to reach. And for some people, it's always better to set a target, because I'm someone who will never be happy setting a target. Reason is because I will always be complaining that we should have got more. We should have got more. So I've never been someone who's content with a total. So even if in a T20 game, or even if in probably when we were batting first, if we could go on to get 300, I would always think, could we have got 325? Could we have got 330? So I always prefer having a target in front of me so that I know where to reach and how to achieve that. So I can plan my innings better. So I've never felt that scoreboard pressure ever in my life.
Now, of course, it was sapping conditions in that particular day in Mumbai. I'm guessing you had a lot of liquids and fruits before you went out to bat in that World Cup final. What did you eat before scoring one of the most memorable 97s of all time?
I'm sure a lot of liquid, because fielded for 50 overs, it was damn hot. It was very, very hot, and plus I think Mumbai can get very hot during April, and probably a little bit of a dal and rice, or probably a curd rice. I don't even remember. Just very little. And again, by the time I realized I finished off, I had to pad up because I was batting at number 3, and by the time I finished padding up, I didn't even finish padding up completely. I was actually in the middle facing Lasat Malinga, so I had no time for anything. You come out, you change your clothes because you're all drenched in sweat, you change, and then you eat something, and then you start padding up and all that stuff, and suddenly you realize it's the second or the third ball, you got to be inside facing Lasat Malinga. So everything happened so quickly from the start of the World Cup till I got into batting in the second innings. I had no time to even think of it.
All right, I mean, whatever you kind of consumed, I mean, you certainly played an immense innings of patience and grit and hard work, 97, but then came that time where there was that rash shot. Was it MS Dhoni telling you to go for the landmark? Because you've said that in the previous interviews you've done. What went through your mind when you played that shot in 97, Gautam?
Probably because I think my mind, that's why I think human mind is his best friend and probably his biggest enemy as well. So when you start probably thinking about future, it can actually come back to bite you really, really badly. And that is exactly what happened, because till 97, all I was thinking of getting to 275. And suddenly when you're 97 and you start thinking of probably you're just one hit away from scoring 100, and how you're going to celebrate, whether it's going to be your moment, whether you're going to be the first Indian to score a World Cup final, and all that kind of stuff. I'm a human being. Everyone can go that way. I'm not saying that I'm God, that I will always stay in the moment. But yes, that was a great learning, not only for me, for probably a lot of young cricketers and probably a lot of people in life, that how important it is to stay in the moment, and rather than thinking too much ahead. And I wasn't thinking too much ahead, but I still was thinking ahead that what is it going to be. And suddenly when you think that you're just one shot away, it actually forced me to play that rash shot. But again, I had no regrets about it. Or the only regret I had is not missing 100 but not finishing the game, because for me, I think if India would have gone on to not win the World Cup, I would have lived for the rest of my life. I would have lived with that regret, because a lot of crazy things have happened in sport. So when you're set, and on that occasion, and probably the biggest occasion for all of us, it's your responsibility, especially being an experienced batter, to finish off the game. So that was my only regret when I was sitting in the dressing room, not missing 100, because a lot of people ask me this question. If someone would have told me one night before the World Cup that you'll go on to get 97 and India will win the World Cup, would you take it? I said I would have taken it hands down, and I still would take it hands down, because from zero, all a batter takes in the middle is a zero. So from 0 to 97 is a long journey. So I feel that any contribution that a batter makes, whatever contribution that helps his country win, is probably a very, very good contribution.
Right, just to draw a comparison then, of course, about your 2007 World Cup final T20 knock, the fact that you batted first, scored an amazing 75 against Pakistan and set up the game. And then on the contrary, 2011 was in a chasing cause, 97. How different were these two in terms of high pressure scenario innings for you and as knocks in general?
See, again, very different knocks, no doubt about it. When I was growing up, I always wanted to win the 50 over World Cup, because for me that was the actual World Cup. I'm not going to degrade T20 World Cup because it's still a huge achievement. But then when you're growing up, it's all about 50 overs, and that was my first World Cup. I had missed it in 2007, so I wanted to make an impact. So that was probably my moment. All the hard work, all the days where I've put in practice, all the hours and everything. So it was time for me to make an impact, and what better than the 50 over World Cup? Yes, 2007 was important because, see, again, not a lot of people expected great things out of us because we were a young side. It was for the first time T20 World Cup was happening. People thought that they're going to go out there and just play and then they'll come back. But then playing the World Cup final against Pakistan is always a good feeling. It's not about Pakistan. Playing a World Cup of any sort, and that also the final is a great feeling. But for me, I think 2011 was probably a moment because when I was growing up, I always wanted to be part of the 50 over World Cup.
Gautam, let's break it down further, of course, in that chase, because a lot of people made news about Dhoni's promotion and whatnot. Were you surprised because you were out there in the middle, considering Yuvraj was in scintillating form heading into that final, MS Dhoni propelling himself? Were you surprised at that decision at all?
Absolutely not, because it really didn't matter to me who's going to come in at number 5. All I was thinking about, me being in that zone. So whether it was Yuvraj Singh who was in fabulous form, whether it was MS Dhoni, it didn't matter to me one bit, and I don't need to be surprised because ultimately I think it's more to do with when people talk about it was a master stroke. Yes, from that point of view, it was a master stroke because it was better to have a left-hand right-hand combination because Sri Lanka was playing with 3 off spinners. They had Suraj Randeep, they had Dilshan and Muralidharan. So it made a lot of more sense having a right-hander in the middle. Yes, people do talk about a master stroke and stuff, but for me, I think it was more rather than a master stroke, it was a tactical stroke, and which was probably the right stroke as well.
And of course, it doesn't need reminding because Sachin and Sehwag departed early, India 31 for 2. You were out in the middle. What were you thinking at that point in time? Because there was still a lot of runs to chase down. Can you talk us through that, please?
I never looked back at things, what happened, whether it was Sehwag or Sachin getting out early. It's about looking at the target where we had to reach. And again, I say that I don't look back at 2011, 2nd April 2011. That moment was finished. It was all over. It was about time to look forward. Even when we lost 2 early wickets, it was not about what we've lost. It was about what we need to achieve. That was more important. And if you don't have that belief that you can go on to win the World Cup, you should not have been part of the World Cup squad. If you don't have that belief that you can't win the World Cup for your country from any situation, had I not played that knock, probably Yuvraj Singh would have played that knock, or Suresh Raina would have played that knock, or even Virat Kohli could have played that knock. But yes, the important thing was that India needed to win. If I didn't have that belief, probably I myself should have told the selector that I can't win the World Cup for the team. I don't deserve to be part of it. If I was part of it, I had to have that belief that from any situation I can win the game for the country.
And it also makes me ponder because he spoke to Paddy Upton as well not too long ago, and he, of course, thinks you're the rock alongside Gary Kirsten, the glue around that Indian batting lineup, which was part of the 2011 World Cup. Do you agree with such names, and do you agree with that tagline that you were the rock for India in that team?
That's what team sport is all about. And I've always believed, yes, I wanted to play a certain way, but I couldn't play the certain way because the reason is I wanted to be probably what team management expected me to be. A lot of people, you will listen in a team sport that, oh, I played this way, take it or leave it. That's not how team sport is meant to be played. Rather play an individual sport. If your team management expects you to play a certain way and wants you to play a certain way, you should be able to adapt to that thing and you should be able to play that way. And I don't know, I don't believe in all these a lock or I don't know, he used to call me a banker and that kind of stuff. I don't believe in all these names. For me, I think it was for me to do the job for the team. I don't care whether I'm batting at number 3, whether I'm opening the batting or I'm batting at number 7. This debate about individuals talking about I want to open the batting, I want to bat at number 4 is ridiculous. I absolutely do not believe all you can do is probably part of the playing 11. And then if the captain and the team management wants you to bat at number 3, wants you to bat at number 6, you should be able to do that. You should be able to have that quality to do that and deliver at that position. And that is all I used to think of. And that is all when I captained this side, I used to talk to players as well. Forget about what number you want to bat at. Just pick yourself in the playing 11 and then try and contribute wherever you get that opportunity. Try and get to score the last run. make the team win. And that is how I've always looked at team sport, and that is how I will always look at team sport. People might agree with me, people might not agree with me. That's their take, but this is how this is what I believe in.
All right, last couple of questions, Gautam, and of course, you know where I'm going to next. I'm going to the after party, and I don't want any waffle from you. What did you do? How was the night? What followed? Because I know it was a tiring day for you personally. But can you please give us some details?
Well, I swear, I'm a very, very boring boy. I'm seriously very boring, and I actually went back to the hotel, spoke to my family, and went upstairs for a bit for literally 5-10 minutes. There was a team get together, and I came back and probably was gone because I had spent 90 overs in the field. I fielded for 50 overs. I had no time in the middle. Then I was actually batting. I was in the middle in the first over and got out in the 40th over. So 90 overs in that heat, under that much pressure. So I was completely gone. But yes, obviously the most important thing was that all the entire family members were invited in the dressing room after we won the World Cup, which was such a special feeling. Imagine the family members, wives, girlfriends, sisters, brothers, parents. They were all in the dressing room celebrating with us. You don't cherish, or you don't experience that moment so many times in your career. When you experience those were just special moments.
And lastly, of course, we want to know if you slept with the World Cup that night in your bed. Are you one of those people who immerse yourself completely in times of celebration?
I'm not that emotional. I'm actually not that emotional, and I'm not someone who gets attached to such certain things too much. I remember after winning the World Cup, I had to do an interview. So I did that interview on the field, and I said something which I still remember. The job well done, job done. And this is what was expected out of us. We didn't do something what we were not supposed to do. When we were picked to play the World Cup for our country, we were supposed to win the World Cup. So it was not something where I think we've done something extraordinary, or we've done something which we were not supposed to do. And it's time to look forward. It's over. Yes, we won the World Cup. We made India proud. We made people happy. It's time to look at this other challenge. And that is the kind of person I am. That if I do certain thing, if I achieve certain thing, for me, I think I'll start looking at the other goal. I start looking ahead rather than looking what I've done in the past. So yes, I don't get attached to so many things. Even when we won the 2007 World Cup, I probably didn't sleep with the medal. I didn't sleep with the medal in 2011. I never cried, and I know a lot of players cried on that given day, and it's fine. Everyone has their ways of showing emotions. Probably I didn't have the baggage of 2007. A lot of other people had. So for them, it was from the lowest moment to the highest moment. I was carrying no baggage. So for me, I think I was very, very clear in my mind that yes, we were supposed to win the World Cup when we were picked. And we did that, so job well done.
Well, Gautam, I'll tell you what, it's been fascinating to talk to you about what's transpired 10 years earlier, and here we are, and how time flies to just be told and narrated by you in terms of some of those stories and anecdotes. But we appreciate your time as ever on cricket.com. We'll catch you soon. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it from the horse's mouth himself, the man who, of course, stood 3 hours batting out there in the Wankhede Stadium on that night of the 2011 final. It was some special innings, and this was definitely a riveting interview. Thanks for watching. It's a goodbye from me.